travel down Manhattan Island near Soho and Little Italy, you'll find this enormous Baroque building. It's huge. It's got these massive columns soaring above you and a dome towering over this early 20th century version of New York. When there's no Chrysler Building, no Empire State, certainly no Freedom Tower, this building dominates the landscape. As you approach, you normally would see a line of old police cars ready to go at a moment's notice. The new automated police force, as they're called, who, using these fantastic inventions called radios, are able to be sent out to different parts of the cities at the drop of a hat. But right now, all those spaces are more or less empty. The police are out on business. Going inside, you'd find, yes, some signs of this sort of neoclassical Baroque shining through, but there's also a certain dinginess to this place. All the windows are often boarded up, or there's often a clatter of people going back and forwards. It's crowded, it's noisy. Not so much today. The phones are ringing off the hook, absolutely going mad. But again, all the police are out to business. As you enter in and you go up the staircase, you'll finally come to the appropriate desk. There, wood panelled, with two large, ominous green lamps lighting that desk. At that desk is a poor police sergeant. He is old, a bit overweight, and his clothes look kind of worn, like he's had this uniform for a long time. But despite his experience, he's panicked. He's jumping from one phone to another as phone call after phone call comes in, making all sorts of requests. There's lots going on in the city today. Certainly relatively the usual amount of crime, but on top of that, all the police are out and about, making sure that all alcohol in the great city of New York is appropriately being destroyed on this, the beginning of Prohibition. But the old police sergeant's attention is caught when he sees this relatively well-dressed man approach the desk. Nothing unusual save that he has blood pouring down his arm, staining his suit. He seems to have a rip and a wound on his arm. He almost staggers to the desk holding a little booklet. He slams it down the desk in a big loud voice and demands, "My name is David Race. I'm a British citizen and I need your help." The police sergeant's attention is taken. The person on the phone still yatters on, but his eyes can't help but look at the bloody passport sitting on the desk and the hand from which the blood comes. Thank you so much for tuning in again. We will be continuing a story that we've already started a couple of episodes ago, so please go back and rewatch if you like. Not only do you get the story, but you get a few more of the rules as to how this solo RPG works. It is a mystery story. There is no planned story. That's the exciting thing. We will have clues emerge from random tables and random rolls, and it'll be my job as the detective to try and piece them together to figure out how the crime was committed and see if a mystery does indeed emerge from the tables. Our detective, David Race, is investigating the brutal murder of a Mr. Templeton. He's a British diplomat come to New York City to negotiate a land deal with some of the locals. It's gone horribly wrong. He's died horribly. And his partner, the only clue that he had was he spoke to a mysterious figure in the wings. Race spoke to the concierge who was on that night, but mysteriously fired the next day, and discovered that the person who had visited Templeton was in fact a woman in that coat and hat with a shaved head. He discovered that she was an artistic sort, but didn't get a name. So, with that lead in mind, he went to leave, but unfortunately was attacked by this concierge. He was wounded and was bleeding and had to make his escape through the fire exit. Now, shortly after I finished recording that last session, I try my best not to think about ideas that aren't seen on camera, because it's actually kind of more fun in these randomly rolled solo RPGs, just to let the story emerge from what you roll and what you get. But of course, I strategize. You still think about what you could do next time. And again, soon after recording, I had an idea to try and make the best of a bad situation. David is wounded, pretty badly wounded. He's only down to 3 of 5 of his hit points. So he's not doing any good. So he'll need to find some help. But maybe we could use his injuries to his advantage. Because yes, he's trying to find this artistic lady. Yes, of course, he's trying to figure out who the murderer is. But there's also another mysterious name that he knows. One that we have gotten nothing about so far. And maybe, just maybe, he can get that information. So David Race, instead of going straight to a hospital or something like that, he, wounded and bandaged, makes his ways downtown, quite a way downtown, to, like I said, this big police station in Soho. It is the police headquarters for all of New York. He's going there because he's hoping that that's going to be the kind of place that has its fingers in all the pies. Yes, there's also smaller district police stations around the place, but if he goes here, this is probably the center of the spiderweb regarding the New York Police Department and what information he has. He's gone in injured, and his goal is to see if he can talk to someone about his injury. So we're going to make 2 rolls here. As he enters the police station, he's injured, he's wounded. Even though there's not many people around, I imagine the police sergeant is still going to be willing enough to help him with his injuries. And so basically he brings him into the police station. Again, there are some people around, and those people are very busy answering phone calls and the like. But all the other beat police officers, they're out on the street. They're off dealing with all of the alcohol they're destroying throughout New York, because today is the day that Prohibition began. So he's led in by the police sergeant, and he's basically demanding for the manager. He's demanding for a police, not just police officer, but a superintendent or whatever they're called in New York. He wants to talk to someone important, someone maybe a detective. He's sort of injured. He's hamming it up. He's putting on his best sort of British accent. He's saying, "I want to talk to a detective. We've been wounded by one of your citizens. What are you going to do about it?" So he's making those demands. The old police officer who's sort of being reassuring, he's sort of bringing him in. He invites in another officer who's actually like a part of their sort of their sick bay sort of thing, and they start having a look at his injuries. So we're going to do a heal move now before we do a compel. I'm going to do a compel move for him demanding to see someone important, but we'll do a heal move to see just if they can bandage him up a little bit. So you actually roll your own wits in order to see how well you've been healed up. The way I like to imagine this is, yes, the police officers and the first aid person is able to help, but David Race, he's been in the military. He actually has seen some combat. He's seen some injuries, so he's actually kind of like, no, don't do that. Just give me that. Let me try and fix this myself. So he's going to try and fix himself up. We're rolling wits, which is +3, to a 5, which is lovely. But sadly, we've gotten a 9 and a 7, so it's just a weak hit. So because that was a weak hit, I can heal up to 2, but it's gonna cost me. It would either cost me momentum or supply. David Race currently has no momentum. That last fight really took it out of him. He's only got some supply. So I'm imagining that as they're doing this, he's looking at their medical bag. They're trying to apply bandages. He can see some really good sort of ointment type stuff that he knows is really good for fighting infection, antibacterial type stuff. And he really wants to use that, but they're all like this is the only bottle we have, like, in the building right now. We've got nothing else. And he's like, oh, fine. Look, let's just take it. So he takes some money out. I'll pay for it for crying out loud. So he pays for it. He manages to heal up just 1 extra health. So while they're doing this, let's determine how successful he was in demanding that he speak to someone. I need to speak to someone who can actually help me. I've been attacked. I've been viciously attacked by one of your citizens. You need to help me out. So he's very intense. He's trying to compel them to do this. What can we convince them with? Okay, so basically because he's going to do something a little bit deceptive here. He's doing something a bit tricky. The reality is he's actually, while there's a lot of blood, he is not that badly wounded. He knows he could go to a hospital, and he knows who has committed this crime. But right now he's saying, I need to talk to someone to help me solve my problem. He could probably solve his old problem. He's trying to swindle these police officers to give him information that he wants. So we're actually going to roll the swindle, the shadow, to see how convincing he is. So David's shadow is +2. So let's see what we got. We got ourselves a +2 to a 4 against a 2 and a 9. So it's another weak hit. My goodness, so many weak hits. Last episode in that fight, I couldn't believe how many weak hits I got. But that's how the dice go. So he got a weak hit. Okay, so I've got an idea. A weak hit, you're going to get what you want. So David's going to see someone who might be able to help them. However, they're going to ask for something in return. And I think I've got an idea of what type of request they're going to make. But let's first find out more who this character is. We're going to use the Universal NPC emulator in order to create a character that he's about to meet. It's going to be a police detective, though probably not quite the one he was hoping for. So the police sergeant and the first aid person bundle David Race off to a little waiting room off to the side, like a little lounge or something like that. It's obviously not really set up for guests. This is the 1920s. Customer service is not a high priority for the New York Police Department, but they find him a space where he can sit down. There's a table. They give him a little bit of coffee for him to have while he waits. And then into the room comes this person he does not expect. She is fairly average height. She's fairly thin, well dressed. She's wearing these plain clothes, but they're very well pressed. They're well done. Her hair is well done. She comes in and she extends her hand. Hello, my name is Harriet Bartony. I'm with the police department. I heard that you had something horrible happen to you. Harriet Bartony. So I kind of decided we'd also make Harriet Bartony female, in part because this story's already got a lot of dudes going on. Yes, I know that there's the artistic lady we haven't met yet, but we haven't met her yet. But also I did some research. So the New York Police Department, it did actually start getting women into the police force very early. Actually at the turn of the previous century, on the 20th century, they started having women coming into the police force. In particular, not so much working at desks and stuff like that, but actually undercover investigations. They would have women go out and investigate things that they saw as being women crimes. So all sorts of quite tragic things usually. Women going out and investigating clinics, to make sure that they're not doing shady practices and swindling women. They also were investigating things like abortion clinics and stuff like that. But they did have undercover women acting as investigators in the police department in New York at the time. So Miss Bartony is one such lady. But what else can we learn about Miss Bartony? We're about to have a bit of a conversation with her. But who is she other than a police officer? So let's use the UNE in order to try and build out more information about Miss Bartony. She is 33, unconcerned. So she's unconcerned. She's very unfazed. She's kind of like, oh yeah, you got shot. Good for you. But she also, her sort of background, she seems like the kind of person that's kind of an unconcerned orator. Okay, so she can talk. She's a very rational person. She's very good at sort of picking apart arguments. She's a police officer for a reason. Really, if the New York Police Department at the time had just reasonable, equitable practices of employment, she would not only be hired, but she'd be probably firing up the ranks already by now. But because she's a woman, she's not getting that opportunity. They're not giving her that chance. But just from sheer ability, she could. She totally could be. So she's this sort of unconcerned. She's not flappable. And she's quite an orator. She's able to not only speak really well, but also really well at coming up with arguments and hearing other people's arguments and hearing their words. She may not necessarily be very forensic, but she's very good at listening to someone, which is horrible because I had totally intended David to, whoever this person rocked up was, completely lie to them. But she may have none of that. But in life, what is she trying to do? What's kind of her main goal as a police officer, as a person? You get a bit more information as to like what type of person she is. So we rolled a 38, which gives us a comprehend. So she's trying to comprehend prosperity. Oh, she's comprehending prosperity. Okay, so I'm going to take a bit of a leap here. There's not a very good equivocation, but go with me here. New York City. We're just about to come into the Roaring 20s. We're not quite there yet. They have just had the Spanish flu, or the whatever it's probably called. So there has been a bit of a bad downturn, but New York and America in general has done pretty well out of the negotiations after World War One. Yeah, lots of wealth. And New York is the hub for that wealth. And those people who have money, sadly at times, can see it as, because they've got the money, they've got the power, they can do whatever they want. And they can indulge in their vices. Miss Bettany, she's an undercover police officer. Yes, she's normally doing these sort of clinics and stuff like that. But her main focus, her main expertise is vice. Okay, looking at stuff like drugs in particular. Maybe her main beat, her usual deal, is that she goes into clinics where the doctors are clearly over-prescribing or prescribing things that they shouldn't to turn a buck, especially for the rich socialite types. Miss Bettany has a bit of a bee in her bonnet maybe about this. I'm going to go on a limb and just say that she's a relatively middle-class, working-class type lady. That's her background. And she's looking at these wealthy types getting away with so much. So that's her main goal. She's the type of detective who's trying to rein in rich socialite types, which again bodes poorly for David, considering he often tries to play off the sort of British aristocrat type. So he's going to try to lie to a person who is a witty orator, using all the charms of a wealthy aristocrat, which is just the opposite of what Miss Bettany is all about. Now, this conversation is going to be quite formidable. Now, we are indeed using the Ironsworn rule set. Ironsworn is a great RPG series created by Sean Tompkin. It's free. Go online, give it a go yourself. It's a bit of fun. But what we've done is we've taken the combat system and we've turned it into a conversation system. So basically, instead of striking and clashing physically, we strike and clash verbally. It becomes a battle of wits instead of a battle of swords. So we're going to enter into the fray. We're going to enter in this conversation. I'm going to say that because Race is coming in to try and trick his way into getting more information, he's coming in at Bantry completely unaware, so she doesn't know what's about to happen. So we're going to say it's kind of like a surprise attack in a way. So we're going to say that's Shadow, so +2 Shadow. And we've got a 5, and 5 plus a 2 versus 6 and a 10. Another weak hit. What else? Which means that we can choose either to take 2 momentum or have the initiative in this conversation. So I have no momentum. We have no momentum at the moment. So I need that momentum. So I am going to take the momentum on that one. But it does mean that she now has the initiative. So she is going to begin the conversation. Now the police sergeant said that you are a Mr. David Race. Is that correct? Indeed, my name is David Race, and I was brutally attacked by someone. I can't believe this would happen to anyone in this civilized, so-called civilized city. I'm very sorry, sir, to hear that, and the police department are, of course, here to help you in any way that we can. And I should say so, too. I mean, this is what comes from a country that doesn't have proper gun regulation. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm wounded, I got patched up, and I appreciate that, but I can't believe this. I mean, this is not the first British man that I heard got attacked today. I mean, have you heard that there was another British man brutally attacked, apparently, over at the New York hotel? I'm sad to say that yes, that is indeed true, that there has been an incident over at the New York hotel involving a British expat, but that's not what we're focusing on right now. We need to figure out who has done this to you. So can you please tell me what happened? How did you receive these injuries? Well, I got attacked now, didn't I? I didn't quite see who did it. I was actually up north, further north in your city, over near Central Park. I was minding my own business. I was traveling to visit someone at an apartment. I was in an apartment block when suddenly a gunfire erupted around me. I couldn't believe it. Bullets were fired. I had to jump through a window. I cut my hand. It was madness. It was madness. I was attacked. And I have no idea who did it. Now, of course, David's lying here, but it doesn't help him in his investigation to know that Mark was the one that attacked him. He's trying to find out another name. Bantry opens up a notebook. She begins scribbling down some notes, and she continues to ask him questions. I see that's horrible. Is there any, you said you didn't know who attacked you, but did you receive any clues? Did you see the person? No. I didn't see the person at all. It sounded like it was a man. I was in the military. The gunshot sounded quite heavy. I don't know who it was. It sounded, I don't know, naval or military. The only other thing I remember is as they were firing, that they shouted out, "This is what happens when you go against Captain Darcy." Captain Darcy! He was the name that we found on that burnt letter in Templeton's apartment. Maybe the police have a record on a Captain Darcy. That they might not. I don't know. Let's find out what the dice have to say. Captain Darcy, you say? Oh, very interesting. Okay. What was the address of the apartment that you were at? Okay, so we have a choice here. We could just roll wits on this and just use the address that actually was in that precinct. However, we need to improve our chances of finding a Captain Darcy. Captain Darcy could either be a naval captain or he could be a police officer maybe, or a military officer. So to improve the odds, basically a race is going to give the address of someone somewhere near the hotel. Okay, let's just say in advance he had this plan, so he quickly grabbed out like a phone book or something, or a map, and he read like a street over. He saw the address that he could use. So this is kind of a witty move. However, he's lying. The reality is this isn't the address. So basically, Race gives her Miss Bantry a fake address, one that isn't the actual one, but it's close to the hotel, so maybe you can get something from that. Okay, I see. So that would be the 18th precinct, so I could probably give them a phone call to find out if they know anything about a Captain Darcy. Look, you say this attack came out of nowhere. That seems very odd. You sure you weren't speaking to anyone who might wish you ill? Like, this doesn't seem to make any sense, sir. Look, Miss Bantry, I need to be honest with you. I haven't been entirely frank. The truth is, I know more about that attack in the New York hotel than I let on. I didn't see who attacked me, but me and some of my friends were part of a delegation from the British government. We've got some very sensitive business that we're doing, me and Mr. Instow and Mr. Templeton. He obviously was attacked and he was killed. And I should have stayed. I should have said more. But obviously, Mr. Instow stayed to call the police. We had very important business for the British government, you understand, and for your government to some extent, that I had to conduct. I didn't want to. I was scared, and I went to the address, and then this attack happened. Mr. Darcy, it doesn't ring. It kind of rings a bell, but it doesn't quite. I would like to know what's going on. Why were we attacked? Why is my friend dead? I just don't understand. I see. Now, I've got to be honest with you, I don't understand. If you did know more about this Templeton case than you let on, why didn't you tell me? I can't do my investigations unless I have all the facts. And you didn't give me all the facts, so why this pretense? Why lie? A member of Her Majesty's delegation winds up brutally murdered in one of the nicest hotels in New York, one of the safest hotels in New York. We thought we were safe, and we weren't. How am I supposed to know who I can trust? I can understand that, Mr. Race. Potentially all too well. Reality is I am quite interested in this Templeton case as well. It is kind of in my wheelhouse. The New York hotel. I'm sad to say that murder wouldn't be the only foul crime that's occurred in that building in the past. So, I understand your concern. Madam, are you saying that the New York hotel has been a point of interest before, that it's been a part of your own investigations in the past? Okay, so we just got a strong hit, which is awesome, can I say. So we've still got lots of leeway to go before this conversation ends. I'm thinking, though, this is where we have that weak hit on the trying to coerce an important police detective out to talk to about the injuries and all that. Because it was compel success, but with a cost. So I'm thinking we're going to start playing that Bantry is indeed interested in the New York hotel for her own reasons. So basically, from this point, anything that she might be willing to reveal is going to come at her own cost. Look, Mr. Race, I work vice. I, in particular, try to investigate those who have the means of doing the greatest harm. And the New York hotel, being such an affluent hotel, is a bit of a center point for all of that action. I'm curious. I'm curious as to what's going on. But of course, as a humble undercover female police detective, let's just say other people like to take the cases that involve the New York hotel. It's not necessarily my jurisdiction. But if you're curious, I'd be curious to know myself what you know. I'd pass it on to the appropriate authorities. Maybe try and find out a little more myself, if you understand what I'm saying. I do indeed understand what you're saying, and as you can understand, I really do want to get to the bottom of what's happened to my friend. I myself, part of my job as a part of the delegation is to be very observant to try and figure out what's going on. Look, I'm trying to figure out what happened myself, so I can send information back to the British government so that they know what's going on. I guess, is it possible that you're able to give me some more information to go on, something that I can help with in your own investigations? It's not entirely a lie. He's obviously not sending the information back to the British government, but he did promise Mr. Instow that he would inform him of everything he found out, and he represents the government, so not a lie, but using his wit. It would be highly improper of me just to give you information. You're not a part of the New York Police Department, and you are a foreign citizen. I know that this involves a friend of yours, but it is our investigation. But I could use the help. Tell you what, are you willing to work with me? Okay? As I said, I don't always get any leeway, but you've got connections to the British government, you've got connections with Mr. Instow is it? And the other members of the staff. If you could help me get more information, perhaps I can help you solve this case. We've gone to the end of this conversation, just about. I've got 10 progress sorted out. And now we've got another prospect. Miss Bantry, she wants in on this case. This has got to do with the compel, like I said before. The fact that the compel role, the person would ask something of the character. And I think the idea that she wants to be involved in this case, it's right up her alley. Investigating the sins of the upper class, and that's normally a thing. Normally she's investigating sort of women's crime, but she wants to find out more on this actual murder case. So race is actually potentially an in for her. So we've got 10, and basically either I need to get back initiative and then just ask any question that I want, or potentially narrative-wise, we can try and end the conversation here, where race can maybe agree to this bargain. And all of a sudden, Miss Bantry goes from being just sort of a side character having a conversation with to potentially aiding in this investigation. An interesting proposal, Miss Bantry. And one that I'm sorely tempted to do. My problem is, let's just say my methods of getting things done aren't always conventional, and you strike me as a rather conventional officer. So, I'll tell you what. I am indeed willing to work with you. However, you must be willing to give me a little bit of leeway, starting with coroner report. Is Mr. Templeton here? Can I go and have a look at what the police were able to dredge up? Okay, so let's end this conversation. I've got 10, so pretty high chance that this is going to be a success. If I roll a 10 though, it's a weak hit, 2 10s, and it's a fail. But let's have a look. We roll, oh my goodness, 1 10. We roll a 5 and a 10. Okay, so I rolled a weak hit on the end that conversation roll, the finish the fight roll. And there's some options there that I can choose from as to the consequence of that weak hit. So, you know, we'll get what we want. She's going to help. But it's going to come at a cost. There's those options. But we've also got here these things called attribute cards. I think they're called attribute cards. Basically, this is a part of the Ironsworn system by Sean Tompkins. It's a part of building your character and giving them sort of additional stats that allow you to fight in a different way or behave in a different way in your RPG. I haven't been using them because a lot of them, again, are very fantasy focused. Magic spells, animal companions, that kind of thing. However, there was one of these attributes that I thought would be appropriate potentially for this scenario. It is the pretender attribute. So the pretender attribute allows you that once you establish an identity with an individual, that whenever you're interacting with them, you get a +2 to any of your rolls. Any of your roles with that individual. Okay, so it's a big bonus. You're very good at lying. This identity is helping you get advantage in a lot of different ways. Except if you roll to do something with that person under that false identity and you roll a 1 on your skill dice, you immediately give the game away in some way. Like something of your disguise slips and that character will notice. You'll then need to follow up with another roll that will try and counteract that slip. So let's say you revealed that your adventurer isn't actually a wizard, and so to cover up the fact that they've all noticed, to cover up that fact, you're going to like leap into the fray pretending that you have some magical armor on when you don't. And when you face danger and you succeed, then it will cover up and it'll be fine. But on a weak hit, it'll be fine. But if you fail that hit, then everyone will know and that will affect the narrative in a big way. So I think that's appropriate. Basically what I'm going to do is, kind of on that pretender streak, I am going to say that, yeah, I'm keen for her to come along and help because that sounds like a bit of fun. But as we are playing, if I roll a 1, then, and she's around, then something may happen involving her and my character, as our newly budding buddy cop relationship is based on a lie. The best way to start a relationship. Alright, Mr. Race. I think I can bend the rules that much. But you can never leave my sight. Whenever we're investigating, we're together, do you understand? And it's not just because I'm trying to get advantage in this investigation game. The reality is I want to make sure that you don't do anything wrong. This whole case could be blundered and the criminal could even get away if you don't play your cards right. Is that clear? Miss Bantry, I think we've come to an arrangement. And Race extends his hand to Miss Bantry. They shake, and the investigation continues. Bantry joins your party. So Bantry is going to assist Race. Race is going to ask, like I said, to see any information that they might have on this case. I'm going to assume that this is sort of later in the afternoon, in the evening. I know that time's flown a little bit, but getting back and forwards in New York, it might take some time. So by this point, I'm going to say that they have indeed gone to the hotel. The hotel wants to get rid of this dead body in the hotel as quick as they can. So the police have gathered up the body and they have taken the body to the morgue. And is the morgue here in Central Police Station? Let's just say 50-50. So I don't really know how these sort of things work. Yes, with a 51, the morgue is indeed in the police central. Maybe because he's especially significant. This is like a foreign diplomat type person that's been wounded. They want to take a special care to look after this body. So they have taken the body and all the evidence and all that sort of stuff to this police district. So Detective Bantry takes Race down a flight of stairs. It goes down and down into even more dingier levels. And down in the basement is not only where they keep the evidence of the case, but also the bodies. We're going to wrap up with a gather information roll. Basically, Race went through the crime scene. He did find those pieces of evidence. But let's see what else was discovered. He only focused on the crime scene. So let's imagine that a few police officers did turn up, not many. And they bagged a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff Race has already seen. So he does indeed see like a switch knife, for example, and stuff like that. Very obvious things. They might have missed the Captain Darcy burnt piece of paper in the fireplace. I don't know, because maybe there just wasn't a lot of people investigating that scene that day. But they did question more people sort of outside of the hotel room. So maybe some neighbours, they've talked to a few more people, so they have a bit more evidence. On top of that, they also have the body. Race did a rough look at the body, but not a deep one. So maybe they discovered something in addition to what was going on. Okay, so it's a plus wit to a gather information roll, which is 3. 3 to a 3, 6 against a 3 and a 1. It is a strong hit. So this is again the evidence and the information the police were managed to dredge up. I am on top of the mechanical advantage we're going to get with this strong hit, which is to get 2 momentum. Hooray! Because I'm down to 2. Now up to 4. We're also going to be using some random tables to talk about some bits of evidence that they found. What I will do though this time, because like I said, they did some interviews with some people. So I'll have a juicy piece of evidence and a mundane piece of evidence. But as another part of juicy evidence, we're going to have a look at our Ironsworn tables. So I am using Matt David's Random Book of Tables, a great resource. You can find it online. And we're going to roll in the nobleman's bedchamber for a mundane piece of evidence. We got ourselves an 82, which is a hidden vault. So we won't go the full hidden vault, but let's say that in their investigations they did indeed find in one of the drawers in the hotel room, there was a false bottom. There was a hidden safe space, a hidden vault in one of these drawers. I think we're going to roll again to decide what was found. No, what we'll do is we'll roll on the Ironsworn tables to decide what was sort of found in those false drawers. So Ironsworn also has some great tables. We're going to do action and theme with the oracles, ask the oracles. So we've got 35, which is falter, and we've got a 6, falter safety. Okay, what was in that false bottom was a set of keys. Now, one of the keys was to the door itself, false safety. You know, this key would be able, if someone knew where it was, they would be able to get into the apartment room in and out relatively safely. And also, let's go even further, there's going to be a key in there for the lockbox in the room. But remember, also in the room, there was the special safe that the British government had brought in. So what if, let's roll for this, let's say it's 50-50, that falter safety means that in that false bottom of the drawer was a key to the British government strong box. 50-50, no, there wasn't. there wasn't a key to that British long box, but there was a key to the room, and there was a key to the hotel's, the regular hotel safe. Okay, so piece of evidence from the juicy list. We've got ourselves. Okay, 62. 62 on my little list is a horrible smell. So, as Race and Bantry are going through the police account, they're looking at the evidence that they found, they note that there was a distinct smell coming from one of the vents. The police officers could smell as they went past one of the vents. Race didn't notice. He was mainly focused on the body and on things around the room, but he didn't really... I guess he just didn't notice the vent. But the police did, and they noticed there was a strange smell coming from the vent. They opened up the vent to have a look inside. What do they find inside? What if it's something chemical? Something that might, I don't know, be a bit of a narcotic? What if it's something that would knock you out or was intended to knock you out? I don't know. Let's say it's 50-50. If it's not, I've got an idea for what it's not. So 50-50. Ooh, 51 once again. So, it was. So, as the police were investigating, they removed a panel, and inside they found a bottle that had a rag sticking into it. And the chemical was eking out across the rag, and as the aircon was blowing, the very 1920s aircon, by the way, the central heating, it had this gas going into the room. The aircon wasn't on at the time when Race investigated. He didn't notice the smell, but as the day had gone on and the heating was turned on, as more police were going in and out of the room, they didn't want it on, they noticed the smell. So they took the bottle, they've got it now in evidence, and they're looking at it, and they've discovered that the bottle of chemical, I'm not a pharmacist, but it was some form of narcotic. Not narcotic, a sedative, knockout gas of some sort. So in the air vent, because the horrible smell was some form of knockout gas. Okay, which brings us to one last piece of evidence. We got a strong hit on that gather information after all. Let's imagine that the police went around, they talked to other people in other hotel rooms, which Race could not do. And after one conversation with the next door neighbour, whoever it was, let's just say it's not important for now, what did they discover? Ironsworn oracle charts. The topic of conversation that they found went to a 38 share 46 corruption. Oh my gosh. Share corruption. Okay. So they look at the interview report from the person across the hallway, from Templeton's hotel room. The police officer interviewed this person. The person was a little bit loud and a little rambunctious and kind of shocked at what happened. And they shared what they knew. There was someone who went into and out of Templeton's room that night. Let's say later that night likely. Oh, it's 99, so yes, late that night. So it was a 99, that's a doubles. Let's say we're talking like 1 in the morning. So 1 in the morning, the person across the hall noticed someone go into the apartment. Let's say that they saw that they were slightly staggered. Well, they heard them coming. They heard someone come down the hall. They weren't sleeping well anyway. They looked through the peephole, and they thought this person, from the way they moved and from the fact that they could hear them, that maybe they were drunk. They were corrupted. You know, this person across the hall was a bit of a Puritan. You know, they were all in favour of prohibition. Sometime later, did they hear any noise from what was going on? No. They didn't hear any noise from the hotel between then and then. Between when the person went in. There wasn't a ruckus. There wasn't a noise. There wasn't a noise. There was a fight, but there wasn't a noise. Anyway, they saw the person leave. Again, all like they heard the door opening. They kind of wanted to catch this person because they figured that they were drunk, that they were indulging. It was after midnight after all, so prohibition had clearly begun now. And so they were watching to get information to tell the police about what had gone on. And indeed, when they looked out the peephole, they heard some noise out there. They were, spying basically. The person was seen leaving the hotel room again staggering. They said they looked a bit like they were drunk, and they went down the hall. They noted the time. They tried to get a good look at what they looked like. Did they get a look at the person? They're looking through a little peephole, so I'm going to say it's unlikely. They got a look at this person. But they did. 95. They did get a bit of a look at this person. Okay. They got a bit of a look at this person as they left. Like I said, they thought that they were sharing in corruption, that this person had rocked up to the hotel room to share the bootleg liquor before prohibition started the next day. So they're a bit of a moralist. They didn't want to see that happen. So they were watching this one stagger in. They didn't hear a fight. And then they saw the person leave. Was this person, the description that they're given, a description of someone that we already know in this case? Let's say 50-50. 69, yes, it was someone that we already know in this case. But who? Okay, so far we've met Patrick Instow. We have seen the hotel owner. We saw the police chief. We have talked to Mark. We've heard about the woman with the shaved head. And yes, there's Bantry, but we could probably just discount Bantry for now. So we've got 5 options there. 5 options. So who was it? Number 5. It was the woman with the shaved head. The woman with the shaved head was seen leaving the apartment after 1 o'clock in the morning in a bit of a staggered state. Okay, so we've picked up some pretty intense evidence there that there was a key to the hotel room found in the false bottom of one of the drawers in the hotel room. What's the key doing there? Like, what good is it to someone in the room to have a key to the room? That doesn't make much sense, but that's what we rolled. We've got the knockout gas in the vent, and someone saw the shaved-headed artist leave the room at 1 in a disheveled state. Okay. One last question I have. One last question. They brought the body back, and I know it's the 1920s, so technology on things like toxicology reports must be horrendous. Even today, it takes days to get information back. But let's say because they've got the knockout gas stuff on them, they know the symptoms of what this specific knockout gas does to a person. Let's ask the question, were there signs that Templeton had been affected by this knockout gas? Had he suffered from knockout gas? I'm going to say it's likely. I'm actually going to say it's likely because it was in the vent. It was there, set up, ready to go. So had he been affected by the knockout gas? Was there symptoms? 71, yes. There was knockout gas symptoms on Templeton. This is incredible. I can't believe I missed the knockout gas in the vent. So you have done some investigation at the crime scene already? Oh, yes, of course. And look, I will tell you what I know already. But it's remarkable. And the shaved-headed lady. Yes, we don't quite know who that is. It's definitely a very distinctive feature to have a woman with a shaved head. Oh, she was the artist responsible for an art installation in the hotel. They saw Templeton the night that he died. Now, you did say you were unconventional, Mr. Race, but I didn't think that you would be able to pull information out of thin air. Right. Yes. That's a good point. Sorry about that. Look, I'll tell you what. I have an idea as to what all this could mean and some leads that could take us somewhere, but I'll explain what I know in the car. I do think we need to put our heads together for this. So with that, the two of them leave the police department. Race kind of hopes and expects that there is a police car that they'll be able to use, but of course, Miss Bentry is a lady. She doesn't drive. And so the two are forced to take a taxi and continue their investigation elsewhere. Okay, we can definitely wrap up this scene here. My goodness, we have had so much happen in this episode. Not only have we found some mind-blowing piece of evidence, the fact that Bentry has revealed that the New York hotel is a bit of a hive for dodgy stuff going on, and we've got evidence that that was indeed the case. We've got drugging going on. Templeton himself had drugs in his system. We also discovered that meeting in the bar was not the only time that this mysterious artistic lady met Templeton that night. Was she involved in the actual murder itself, or is more going on than meets the eye? Probably, potentially both, depending on what we roll and what we can deduce. But probably most interestingly of all, we now have a partner in crime. I'll try and roll up some more information on Bentry and figure out other ways that she might be able to assist us in this investigation, but she could also potentially hinder us. If it's revealed that Race is not actually technically officially part of the British delegation, that he's just some random drunk that Instel accidentally got involved in the case, then all of this could come crashing down on David Race. How very exciting. So I hope you join us next time to see how this all plays out. And who is this mysterious shaved-headed woman? Thanks for tuning in. Bye. Thank you again for watching. This is the part of the video where I do ask you to like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you've watched. But I would also like to draw your attention to some awesome people doing some excellent things. The Cancer Council Australia is an organisation that is striving for a future without cancer. What they do is they raise funds for cancer research. They also spread awareness and empower people to reduce their cancer risk. They are a charity most famous for their Daffodil Day. However, they are willing to partner with all sorts of people to do anything they can to raise money to help create a better future. If you would like to find out more, go to cancercouncil.com.au, or you can call them at 13 11 20. If you live outside of Australia, can I encourage you, seek out organisations who are also trying to create awareness or fund cancer research so that we could all live in a brighter future. So I'm not getting paid to say these things. These are just good people doing good things in this world and letting you know how you can be a part of it. So if these people's work grabs your attention, can I encourage you, go to Google, look them up, visit their website and see what you can do for this excellent, excellent cause. Bye.